us a lot. But the priority to the people of eThekwini and KZN and all other provinces who were affected, I think the priority is housing. That's why most of the people are also engaging on the presentation from housing. I just want to check with Ms. Kanyile, especially on the challenges when she is engaging with the community in terms of the challenges, and people are saying they don't want to go back when they are given immaterial. They want the permanent housing, of which is correct. Anyone wants to have a decent house. But I just want to check in terms of the upgrading of informal settlement program, because I think it's an opportune time to address the issue of housing. Although we are dealing with floods which took place in April, but now in order to address the challenges that are faced with our people is to get a plan on how to address the issue of housing. One of them is this upgrading of informal settlement, because most of the people who got affected are from informal settlement. Maybe if we can be assisted in that regard, as Honorable Zungula was asking about the long-term plan. So maybe we can be also assisted in order for us to understand where are we in terms of addressing the issue of housing in eThekwini. But as much as we are saying that in terms of the updated progress, we see that there is a progress. One must also allude to the fact that we need to get some update, because when she was presenting, she also stated the fact that it's not only housing. The engineering side, infrastructure, as colleague mine was also talking about infrastructure of the entire city. So a case in point, there are housing, such as RDP houses that are formally, but you find that they need some retaining walls and all other stuff because they were affected as well. You find that a certain family still have a house, but is not under a good condition. So I'm just checking in terms of what she was saying, that Upato, he is sharing a committee of people who are doing the verification on behalf of the city every day at 6 p.m. Maybe we can be assisted to go to how far in terms of addressing other matters that are related to infrastructure engineering, such as retaining walls that are needed, and also to be given information to say that who are those people who are doing the verification on behalf of the city in order for us to make follow-up. Because I still feel that there's a lot that needs to be addressed. I just want to get a clarity as well. It seems as if our focus now is only on the people who are on the community halls. It's understandable. We need to use those community halls as well. And one of the interventions that we are coming with is to give them a material. And you are also alluding to the fact that they are resisting, they want a permanent structure. So now, it looks like we are not also focusing on people who didn't go to community halls, but who were housed by family members. So what is the status of those people in terms of this verification that Ubabo Pato is sharing every now and again in terms of getting an updated report? Because what is happening, we need also to measure on what is happening on the ground, what is the reality. Some of these people who are affected, who happened to be housed by family members, are not getting any communication. And the chair, if you remember very well, when we were engaging with different departments in Johannesburg, we also stressed to the fact that we need to get a report on how different departments are engaging with people who were affected by floods. Because people are saying that, no, since I moved to my aunt's house, I have not heard anything. Since I have submitted my name, I have not heard anything. Coming to water, as much as Ubabompele have taken us through, and the video was also played, talking about Utongati. But I think Ubabompele, acting MM, the water department, it needs some serious look at it. It has collapsed. We're not talking about floods now. So there's an outcry in the Department of Water eThekwini. If there's a a pipe that has been burst. It took time to fix that pipe. And it even took 2 weeks. So I think you must look at it and also zoom in there. On the social development, my understanding is that even the presentation that we get from the department when we're engaging with them is that they are the first one to arrive on site for intervention, which is very correct. So people who were affected by floods in this disaster, they have submitted their names, and then the first department to receive the list is the Department of Social Development. So now others, they have not received any sort of intervention. We know very well that if you are affected by any disaster, the first thing that needs to be addressed is the issue of stomach, and the family members must not die because of poverty. So I don't know if the mayor will be able to clarify the issue of DSD, if they are still taking care of those people who were affected, or it was a once-off intervention, and so on and so on. Babu Musa spoke about, especially on the health side, and the issue of mortuaries. There has been some report that there have been a backlog in the mortuary of Phoenix in terms of the DNA backlog. Families were also saying that they are not given the bodies to go and bury them. So I just want to get the clarity if that one has been cleared. If the Speaker's Office, Babu Nyawose, can also provide us with a list of people who have been assisted in terms of intervention in burial, because there was their intervention. In order for us to check for them, because I must also thank the MEC for Kokta, the former Premier, with his sterling work. We raised an issue of a family of about Kaptelezi, who was assisted through that intervention speaker that I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, the family didn't receive the money. But when it was the matter, when it was reported to the MEC of Kokta, Babu Zigalal, he took the matter very serious and he made some follow-ups. And even here, before we coming to this meeting, we had to meet with all people who are involved, because at the end of the day, we want to see the family getting the money. So I'm saying, Speaker of eThekwini, if we can provide this committee with the list of people who, according to your records, were assisted in order for us to make a follow-up, because if we didn't come across with this issue of family of Butelis, we wouldn't know. We'll be reporting here on paper to say that no, they have received the money, while they didn't receive the money. Thanks to Ukuzeni, who took this matter very serious and met with the family, and we follow each and every legal information that come across to say that no, at the end of the day, the family will receive this money. On the challenges, Chair, maybe, especially on the presentation from housing, maybe if we can be taken into confidence as to say, as now, one of the intervention is to say that people must receive materials. What type of materials are you giving to people? Noma nisabanika into yokuthi hamba uyoshayela umjondolo wakho. There are also unconfirmed reports from that shelter of Ward 53 Emawoti. They are saying bona they are not given material, but they are told ukuthi hambani phumani manje niyoqasha. I'm saying it's unconfirmed until the department go and verify that information. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Provincial.
Thank you, Sis. Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Tim Brouterset. I'm a member of the National Council of Provinces, and I'm a member of this committee, and I'm a very proud representative of KwaZulu-Natal. Thank you. Right. Chairperson, first of all, thank you for the presentation that we received. And I want to join Honourable Hussein in thanking all the technicians that have been working tirelessly. All the technicians, all the artisans, all the managers, all the supervisors have been working tirelessly since April to try and restore our city to where it should be. However, Chairperson, There are some areas of our city that it is as if the floods happened this week, that have not changed at all. And so let's talk about them. Tongaat, the waterworks. The people in Tongaat have not had water in their taps for 4 months. 4 months. Nothing's changed. So the first question I want to ask is about Tongaat. I noticed in the presentation that it was a Section 36 award. I would like to know, number one, whether the AG had oversight over that award, that Section 36 award. Then I would like to also know, I didn't pick it up in the presentation, when is the completion date? We need to have a completion date on Tongaat Waterworks. We need to be able to tell people you can expect water when. Please, if we can get that clarity. Then the mayor responded earlier on saying there are not enough tanker services. Well, it's great to say there are not enough tanker services, but so what are you going to do about it? What engagements are we there with COCTA, Mr. Mayor, to get more tankers? There were more tankers provided in the first part of the crisis, but we're still in that crisis, sir. We're still there. People in the north still don't have water. So what are we going to do, and what is COCTA going to do to assist just getting more tankers? We can't just say, well, we don't have enough. We have to do something about it. The next question I wanted to ask is, how many successful applications have been sent to Treasury in terms of their guidelines? I don't see that in the presentation. The reason I raise it is on the 1st of July, Treasury pointed out that they had almost nothing from eThekwini. Now, one would certainly hope that's improved. But in terms of application for funding, how many successful applications have been handed in? The concern is maybe the city just don't want to do those applications because they're too onerous in terms of procedure. I really would like a feedback on that. The other part of Durban, of eThekwini, it has not changed at all, and the committee's been there, is the MR551. And I've consistently raised this. I got the committee to go and visit this road, which I'm very grateful to the chairs for agreeing. We visited the road. It's the road to Shongweni. For many of you who've been to the Shongweni market, it's that road. But just past the Shongweni market, if you continue, it's the road to Mpumalanga, to Hammersdale. And the people of Hammersdale still have to drive all the way around and double their taxi fare. Double their taxi fare. And we all know that in many, many households, that is a game breaker. But the road to Shongweni market has been repaired by the residents. Nothing to do with the city. I think there was advisory help, but the city didn't put any money into it. But if you continue all the way down, the bridge at the bottom is still completely non-existent. So the people of Mpumalanga are cut off. And when I raised this at the National Department of Transport in the last Johannesburg engagement, they said, it's a municipal road. And this ping-ponging back and forth, Mr. Mayor, is unacceptable. We've got to fix that. We've cut off an entire community, and I promise you, to them, it's like the flood happened yesterday. Despite all the work, and I said in the beginning, I laud that work, it's like it happened yesterday. And that's the problem. We have to do something urgently there, whether it's Bailey Bridges or whatever the case may be, to connect that community. Not the well-heeled rich people who go to Shongweni Market. They've already sorted their own stuff out. Talking about that community cut-off. We've got to fix that. Chairperson, then the final point is the issue about water and sanitation. I'm not going to repeat what Councillor, you'll hit me, what Honourable Hussein said about this. But you will remember that on the 1st of July as well, we engaged with water and sanitation. And you will remember that the Deputy Minister, David Mhlobo, said that the eThekwini water system was broken before the floods. And it needs to be built back better. And that he made that commitment at the time that he believed that the money should be spent to actually try and restore eThekwini water and sanitation infrastructure back to what it should be, not just patching. So the question I have to the city is, surely you took note of that. And has there been any engagement with the Department of Water and Sanitation who are willing to speak to various entities, including Infrastructure South Africa, to try and find the funding to actually take eThekwini back to where it should be and not just a patch job, and spend close to 10 billion rand on the city, which would include all the sanitation issues we have at the moment. So can I please get an answer as to, have eThekwini picked up the phone and said, we hear you're interested, let's talk, let's make a plan. All right, Chairperson, I think that's all I have to cover. Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Executive Mayor, Babumpele. Let's deal with the questions quickly. I've noted 2 or 3. What happened to you, Baba? I miss you. When we are saying we're breaking for 10 minutes, but let me accommodate you. Baha, quickly. Okay, Honorable Todov will be the last one. But once I see that you are taking long, I will be unfair to you because we are unfair to us.
Chair, you are putting a gun on my head.
No,
But it's fine, Chair. No,
it's
I'll
a
be
knife,
brief.
it's not a gun.
I'll be brief. Let me be brief, Chair, before you are charged of an unacceptable conduct for an MP in the House. Chair, thank you so much for the presentation. I think that it kind of gave a green light on what is happening within the city. And I think that a lot of work is clearly done. My name is Mbulelo Baha. I'm a member of the NCOP and also a member of this subcommittee. Briefly, Chairperson, what I would like to get a sense on is the slow delivery of housing in the rural areas. And I think it was in one of the slides that were presented to us. I just want to get a sense as to what are the challenges that put rural areas in the backdrop in terms of delivery of human settlements. Secondly, Chairperson, to what extent is there engagement with people in shelters, both at the level of manufacturing good life standards and to assure them of the work being done to address their plight by the city? The third one, Chairperson, is around learners. I saw a number of learners that was displayed in one of the slides. What I want to get a sense on is what is it, or to what extent are learners now at school, and how many of those would still be displaced, and what is being done to address that challenge. The last one, Chairperson, is on the 80 bodies that have not yet been recovered. Is there a continuous search that is conducted to get more of the remains of the people that were lost in floods? Or if not, what is the situation? What is it being done in terms of addressing that? Thank you, Chairperson. I hope I was brief enough.
Thank you. Honorable Utuli.
Thank you, Chairperson. Igama lami nguSilindile Wakalithuli. I'm from KZN, ngihlala kwi-NCOP. Imibuzo eminingi hlalo isibuziwe, but ngifuna ukuthinta kakhulukazi leya sothongathi, because mhlambe any privilege umuntu anayo ukuthi we are from KZN and then sihamba zonke lezi indawo. Last week mhla ka-16 othongathi in one of that day care umntwana udrownile kwi-container ebiphethe amanzi because i-crash ikha amanzi ikwi-water tank and then iwabeke kuma-container, and then the child went outside and then drowned and passed on, and that was a very unfortunate incident that happened. So the issue of amanzi is really serious. A mother has lost a child because of amanzi. So one would like a department it ukusheshisa kule issue yamanzi uthongathi, because it's been 4 months without water and people are even getting sick because amanzi awekho clean enough. But also the issue of people abahlezi ma shelters. I hear Honorable Mkhalipi saying they are news angekho confirmed, but I have spoken to some families abebenqaba ukuphuma kumanye ama shelter. There are reasons where they are being told ukuthi baphume but akusho ukuthi abayephi. I think it's also a communication engekho proper, because if these people abasema Shelton baya inform every time ukuthi simiphi yini into esivimbile ukuthi siqhubeke siye phambili, angaba sawabona ama protest amangaka. So I think I communication yona ebalekile njengamanje ukuthi abantu batshene ukuthi how far are we in moving you and where are we moving you and for how long, because I time frame abakhala ngayo. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you. Honorable Totov.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm China Dodovu, NCOP. I'm from Northwest. Firstly, let me join the queue to welcome the report. I think it was quite illuminating, comprehensive, and it does give a sense of where we are in terms of our response as a city to this calamity which happened. From the national government, which declared this situation a disaster area. Secondly, the president convened a joint sitting of parliament propelled by a burning desire to attend to the problem. And parliament, in its joint sitting, convened for this purpose, established this joint committee on disasters. And that demonstrates an unflinching commitment on the part of national to really respond to the calamity. Now, I have a small concern, and I want the municipality, when I emerge out of this room, to just allay my fears, to say everything is in place, all systems are running, and as a municipality, we are going to do everything within our power to address this. Because where I sit, Chair, I'm concerned, because the objective reality is that there are a lot of dissatisfactions within the city itself. On TV, you see people protesting about lack of water, lack of this and that. And the presentation itself highlights the fact that some beaches had to be closed because of the sewer spillages in the waste treatment works and all of that. And the backbone of, my concern is that the backbone of this city is based on tourism. Millions of people would want to come to the city because this city plays a critical role in that respect. On the other hand, you close beaches. And where I sit, I want to say this from the bottom of my, I don't get a sense that concomitantly the city is geared to attend to all the challenges that are obtained. What is it that we can do to ensure that, one, we attend to the issue of housing? For example, the city has indicated that out of the 1,185 sites identified for this purpose, only about 20 B&G houses were constructed, and about only 134 TRUs were constructed. But the fact of the matter is, Chair, there are many people who still live in those centers. Some of them that we visited are overcrowded. There is no privacy. I, as a man, would want to share some moments with my wife. I don't know how do they do it for 6 months under the circumstances. And really, we need to extricate the city from the situation that it finds itself. And this require a formidable approach that will inspire confidence, that will send a clear and cogent message to the people of eThekwini to say, we communicate effectively, we are resolute in our conviction, and we are tending to all the issues that are facing us. And for me, I don't know why, but I feel that that message doesn't come up very, very clear. And if the mayor and the team can just allay my fear to say, it's all systems, we are okay, the timeframes that we have stipulated there will be achieved, and we are going to do everything within our power to ensure we succeed. It's just that point, Honorable Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Executive Mayor, as you come, we used to have a member of the NCOP. When I said I'm from the most beautiful province in South Africa, referring to Mpumalanga, the one of eThekwini used to say, I'm from the most beautiful province and one of the biggest port and the busiest in the continent, referring to eThekwini. So, Executive Mayor, I don't know whether, Mpele, I rely on you to marshal the other forces to be quick.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Chair. I think we don't need to spend so much time because other questions have been responded to when we responded at an initial a question session. Chair, when we are in the disaster, we understand the conditions that people are living in, but when we are in the disaster, it's not of our own making. So therefore, there will be no sofas in the community hall. There will be no nice beds and all of that because it's a disaster. So really, we understand that, and we need to work hard to take them out of those shelters. But the reality is, we need collaboration, especially from the political parties. I think they need to take responsibility, like all of us, that this is not the opportune time to go to these shelters, mobilize people against government and all of that, because we want to work together. So I'm sure that those who want to contribute in that will be more than welcome. Chair, the issue of housing, we don't want to exhaust it because the MEC is still coming to make a presentation who's leading us in terms of all these TRUs and the structures in the city. But we must indicate that since we had a challenge, Honorable Mkhalipi will recall, because we were neighbors as councillors before she went to Parliament. So she'll recall that we used to have a bridging finance as a city to expedite the houses, the building of houses in the city, but Auditor General raised a concern with that. So we had to pull out of that muscle because we were told that it's not our competence. So therefore we can't be budgeting directly to deal with the issues of housing. So I think it's one of the impacts that have impacted negatively on our strength. Chair, the issue that the other parts of the region in eThekwini, we welcome the concern about the road to Shongweni, to Mpumalanga. We will be looking at that. I'm sure the team by now will have formulated a response whether it is a provincial government road or it's our road, it's our asset. So that we can look at that and see what we can expedite to restore those services. But we are working together with the Provincial Department of Roads, as well as SANDF in other parts of the municipality. They've already started to construct bridges, assisting us as a municipality. So we are really happy about that intervention. We would like to have more water tankers. That is our wish. We've been working with COGTA and the National Department of Water and Sanitation. They did indicate that they are also looking at their finances because they've pulled out of the first intervention which they gave us. We are hopeful that they'll find money to bring back those water tankers which have been of much assistance to the city. Otherwise, we are budgeting for that so that we don't cry, and we just intervene. So that's what we are doing. That's why we have just approved although the fleet will only arrive in December, because you know when you order all these fleets, it takes some time since the parts are also affected due to the other challenges in the world. Chair, the issue relating to the food, I think we have responded to it. The time frame for Tongat, we have already said it, that by end of October, we expect by the 5th of November, the formal handover will be done. So that is our target. Remember that, honorable members, that the project was designed for 6 months, but we had to engage so that we short-circuit the period to 4 months. So it will be done in 4 months instead of 6 months, because we have taken into cognizance that really people are living without water in those areas. So it's not only Tongat that has got a problem. There are many areas in the city where we are trying to mitigate using water tankers and other interventions in the city. But the team will complete the remaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Bab Mayor. And the social issues that were raised started with social development, follow up on those with missing relatives. I've consulted with social development, DSD, on this matter because it is mostly a mandate outside the city. We assist and we complement what they do. We have a Safer City unit, which has got an element of social development in it, which works closely with the DSD. So the bulk of the social workers come from province, and in their mandate, they have already put a plan in place to continue monitoring and assisting and supporting those that are in need and have lost relatives, together with our teams from Safer Cities. So that is an ongoing program until most of the relatives are able to stand on their own. They continue as well to assist them to access all government services and grants and all other services that they require, so that they are comfortably assisted out of the grieving and also onto being able to stand on their own post this problem. The second issue, I consulted with health because the issue of DNA straddles between SAPS and health of province. I had already indicated 26 people are missing, and I've confirmed that with the health as well. They confirmed the same. They also indicated that they are trying to engage with the private labs in order to fast-track the issue of DNA. Still a challenge, but they are working with private laboratories to assist. There was a case which was in the newspapers where they used such a service to actually assist to reduce the backlog on the DNA, but unidentified are still, as indicated earlier, 26. The last one was search and rescue, whether it continues or not. In a meeting of our committee early this week, there was a report on this matter where we indicated to councillors that search and rescue still continues, although the scale may have come down, but we still are targeting certain communities where there is still a lot of missing bodies. We still work as a team across all sectors, and although no longer at Virginia, but we are using the military base, which is closer to the old airport, to where we use to tackle these issues. So correct, the search and rescue responsibility continues beyond the floods. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will deal with the finance-related questions. The first one, I think, is how much have we received and how much do we need? We've not received any funding at this stage. As I've indicated, the last discussion with the National Treasury was that 185 million is currently being processed, and it should be with the city within the next few weeks. So we are expecting that money next week or the week after. I did indicate that we had to reprioritize the USDG that was allocated to us as a city. As part of the reprioritization, we received a portion of about 340 million 2 weeks ago. We will be using that to respond to some of the disaster-related matters. But the impact of that is that we had to defer some of the projects that were planned. So we still need money to replace that amount that we'll be using to deal with the disaster-related. As far as how much we require, the insurance claims that have been submitted, they are close to R1 billion. I did indicate earlier on that our damages, excluding human settlement, is about 3.9 billion. So the support that we require from national is about 3 billion, so that we are able to continue servicing our infrastructure, because our infrastructure network is quite wide. If you look at the roads alone, we are servicing about 10,000 kilometers. You look at your sanitation, we are servicing close to 8,000 kilometers of our sewer mains. You look at water, the pipeline is about 12.6 thousand. So that's the extent of the challenges that we are dealing with. So we do need support from national. And I hope NDMC will consider all the applications that have been submitted. I can confirm, Chair, that all the applications that were expected from us were submitted around May, and we've been responding to queries that were received, especially around some of the projects that they wanted to fund. Tongat was one of those projects that they indicated they would like to fund. And then the other issue I want to deal with, Section 36, whether it was audited. UAG, I think they communicated that they will be doing a real-time audit. I can confirm that Utongat was one of those projects that has been looked at, and they are currently working on the report. In fact, last week, UAG herself was with us on Tuesday. We visited the Tongat plant, and we responded to some questions that were raised. So the report will be out soon, and we will respond accordingly if there is a need for our response. I think those are the finance-related matters that I wanted to address. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'll also address few matters, particularly relating to how many number of units. Yes, indeed, the progress is slow. I think this question goes at hand with the other honorable member asking why is there slow delivery in the rural areas. I think our challenge is in the rural areas. The city manager did refer to our terrains as one of the steepest terrains, so the access to the areas or houses that were damaged, it's a bit of a challenge, and to cut material from the point of delivery to those downstreams, it's a problem. So the pace of delivery is very slow, and we still have to deal with soil conditions before we can even put the TRAs. Hence, the current delivery is 134, but the city has also given material supplies to 360 families. Hence, we've removed some people in the hall. And the question from the Honorable Member Mkalipa, I would like, through you, Chair, to request that the response of what's the status on the informal settlement upgrading, it's extremely comprehensive. If we respond, we won't do justice. But we do have a plan as the city. We do this out of the informal settlement upgrading grant, which is called the ISUP grant that we receive as part of the USDG, Urban Settlement Development Grant. And it's 727 million that we have this year to deal with the informal settlement upgrading. But we can, if we are allowed to, just deal with that report, because it's quite comprehensive in terms of where we are and where we've been and how far we're moving and the entire program, and anticipated eradication or removal of informal settlement, or response rather of informal settlements through other methods like incremental services. And then the question around, are we only dealing with housing? The city has incurred over 3 billion worth of damages of infrastructure alone, that include the water infrastructure, electricity, and roads and bridges, and we have been responding to such. A lot of roads that are strategic in nature have been damaged. I think just a few examples, the Bayhead Road that impacted on the ports, we're able to get on the ground with Transnet and restore that road, and the other issues that we're dealing with in the South Durban Basin. So we're also looking at infrastructure that actually impacting on our economy, so that we rebuild and we ensure that the economy of the city and the province goes back to normality. So we are looking at massive infrastructure across, including the retaining walls in residential residential areas, and a lot of bridges and stormwater infrastructure that we are repairing. So that work is also underway. And I think the Honorable Lutuli has given us a suggestion around communication. We've noted that because the challenge was consistent, that maybe there's poor communication, that's why people in the halls are sort of revolting, and we've taken that suggestion. And lastly, we like to believe that people, not everyone don't want to move, or people wanting not to be moved from halls. It's not standard across all halls, but we do find those challenges. We like to believe that some people come to halls specifically at particular times where the feeding will happen, but it's not across the spectrum. And we also like to understand from us relocating them to other alternative sites that they are reluctant to actually relocate far away from where maybe kids go to school, or maybe where their livelihood has been. So we're destabilizing livelihoods in a sense, but we have no options if we don't have feasible sites in close proximity of areas where they were damaged. So we are dealing with that issue on a case-by-case basis, but it's not cross-cuttingly that they don't want to move, but we do have that challenge where people don't want to move. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I'm going to be very brief. I'll take a couple of questions directly. So the first one is from Honorable Member Brotoseth. He basically has requested to know when is the Tongat Waterworks going to start? The premium. Or did he? Okay, that's fine. And then the next question was on MR551, which is the Shongweni Road, and what is it that we are doing there. You will recall, honorable members, that is a DOT road, but what we have basically done is to have a memorandum of understanding and agreement to basically see to it that we deproclaim that particular road, and we start looking for some budget co-financing it, because the deproclamation process also has to go with the concomitant allocation of budget, which also has been a thorny issue for discussion. I know now what might be processing in your mind is that, can you really still be talking MOAs and MOUs when people are locked out, are cut out? Sorry? Yeah, there are M's like, yeah, there are M's that are provincial. Okay, sorry. So that is the process that we are embarking upon to ensure that we do fix that particular road. Then the next question is the one that talks about, yes, the acknowledgement that Water and Sanitation Department has serious challenges. I wouldn't say that it has totally collapsed, because it would mean that no one would still be getting water in this city at all, and no one would have decent sanitation. It does have challenges, and there is a turnaround strategy. So we can share the turnaround strategy with you, lest I do injustice by trying to share it here in 30 seconds. I will not have an opportunity to do that. Safe to say that it's a multifaceted one that looks at funding, that looks at intervention to deal with water loss, that looks at Masakane to ensure that we raise additional funding, fixing our network both for water and sewer, and also our facilities, the 100 million that I made reference to in relation to the pump station. So it is all part of the bouquet to deal with that problem. Then the last one, have we picked up a call and phoned the minister or the ministry or the Department of Water and Sanitation? Indeed, we have. As of yesterday, the Minister of Water and Sanitation was here. In fact, I've seen more of them, the three of them with his deputies, more than any other minister in any portfolio. They sit with us in the meetings, the war room. In fact, at some stage, Deputy Minister Mahlobo was chairing the war room that we have. So we are working with them, and they've always been consistently providing support to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Babu Mpele. Executive Mayor Babu Kaunda, Deputy Mayor Babu Mavundla, Speaker, Councillor. One thing that is clear, deal with it. I don't want to misrepresent you.
No, thank you, Chair. Sorry, there was one question which was not responded to on the burials. We have assisted around 230 families so far. We still expect if there are families who still want to come forward for assistance, but we are hoping that those who could not come and ask for this intervention and relief, they were able to bury their loved ones on their own. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Executive Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Speaker, Councillor, Premier, MECs. One thing that as co-chairs we have learned since we have started is that sometimes as this ad hoc committee in Parliament, irrespective of political affiliation, we normally say you don't praise a fish for swimming, but we do give credit where it's due. And eThekwini deprived us a serious opportunity in the past. And today you can see they are overly prepared. And they were able to present something that is making us to be able to have a better sense of what is happening besides our own assessment and visit without engaging them. Saying that, it has been brought to my attention, as we know, co-chair, we have been doing it last night. We don't take it for granted, Premier, when we happen in our midst to have a person that will just come, because we have seen with members, even though they will always complain when they don't have money, but if one, it's his or her own birthday, they will disappear and go somewhere and send some apologies. But in our midst, we have MEC of Human Settlement and Public Works. Today it's his birthday. So we happy birthday, MEC. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Amy. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip, hooray! So, Premier, last night we had a surprise also for one of our own. Since we have started as a committee, it was one of the staff members, and we don't take this thing for granted, because I'm honestly saying we'll normally have people that will just give apologies. Premier, since we came to KZN, we have seen the extensive magnitude of the damage of houses, businesses, roads, bridges, telecommunications, electricity, the water provision, the rail, including the port that I spoke about. But now, allow me to take this opportunity in terms of getting the progress from the province, because the last time it was when we're dealing with the first phase and second phase. Now we're dealing with the second phase and the third phase. To invite the Premier, Honorable Dube Ngube, to do the opening presentation remarks, and there is a team that will be working with the Honorable Premier. The floor is yours. Good round of applause is no harm.
Thank you very much, co-chairpersons, Honorable Nyambi, for those kind words. Honorable Frolic, thank you very much. I wish to acknowledge you as co-chairs. I do wish to acknowledge the honorable members that are here for an oversight work. I was saying I'm looking forward to honorable members next time, if it's not today, telling us as members representing the province how much money are we getting from that billion in the purse that you've appropriated to us, so that we don't have to lament the lack of resources. I know that previously you've worked very hard with us, you've supported us, and we do appreciate that. We don't take it for granted. I do wish to acknowledge as well my honorable members of the Executive Council that are here. We have Honorable Zikalala, MEC Cocter, we have Honorable Nkonyeni, MEC Finance, and Honorable Dr. Mahlaba, the birthday boy. And we also have our Honorable Mayor here, our local calendar, and this is a local calendar. Yeah, it's a local calendar. And the Deputy Mayor, Mavundla, Speaker, Councillor Nyawose, and other members of the Executive Council that are here. I also do wish to indicate that we also have the Director General, Dr. Mkhize, with us from the province, the heads of departments, as well as other senior members of the province from various departments. We wish to thank you, honorable members, for the opportunity to address this meeting or this committee on the flood disaster relief, and also to provide progress that we have been able to master as a province following the devastating floods that we've had. As the government of the people of KwaZulu-Natal, we wish to convey again our gratitude for all the support that you've given us so far. And we are today giving you the progress that we have mastered since that time. We stand still reeling from the pain of many families, and you've heard today that have still not found their loved ones. It's a very painful situation. The Department of Social Development continue to provide psychosocial support. They've even included the doctors from the Department of Health, so that as a team, they do expand that support that is being given to the families. The teams continue as well, the search and rescue, as you would have heard, albeit on not a larger scale as it was before. I'm still trying to ensure that at least those families try and find closure. As you know that in our African culture, at least you get at least the closure. So we are really with those families to ensure that at least they do find their loved ones, so that they can have that closure. The not outstanding that difficulties and despair, it's not our choice at the moment. We acknowledge that there's a number of stakeholders that have supported us, that have helped us through this journey, and also guided by the three-phase intervention approach, which was announced by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, that one of focusing on the continuing with the immediate relief, which is the humanitarian relief, recovering and rehousing people and restoration service, as well as the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the province, returning to its normality. Whether we will be ever have normality, it's something that we are still to see. Honorable members wish to confirm that to a large extent, phase one is proceeding, and almost the affected families continue to be provided with humanitarian support as the provincial government. the Department of Social Development is continuing. I do want to say that under very, very difficult situation. The Department of Social Development, even before the disasters, they were already under very difficult constraints financially. I don't know whether you might have heard that when the National Treasury did the budget cuts, they cut the areas that were not supposed to be cut, i.e. The COE, the compensation of employees, which put really difficult constraint to the Department of Social Development. As a result of that as well, they've not been able even to replace or recruit where there are vacancies because of the constraints. And nonetheless, they do continue providing service to the communities that are in the halls. They even implemented a program called One Social Worker, One Ward, and Cluster Social Worker, 2 shelters. This was to ensure the ongoing work by social workers to each one of the shelters, because we wanted to get the real-time reports as to what is it that is going on at any given time during the day at any one of those shelters. We also acknowledge the fact that the gains that we have made in the quest to ensure speed and efficiency in the delivering of human settlements, they are threatened by the recurring floods and storms. As a province, we are part of what is called the climate group, which is called the Under 2 Coalition, which is a global network of provinces or governed state that are working towards the carbon emission towards the 0 by 2050. And we shall continue using this platform to mobilize even more support towards the climate change programs. We also have a situation in our province, as you know, that we are a coastal province. The Department of Environmental Affairs made a research working with the national, with the University of Cape Town, where they also indicated to us that what is called a red line within the coastal towns, it seems to be moving more than what it was before, which means that there are a number of houses that are there right now which are, before the red line, and the red line seems to have moved ahead of those houses, which means those houses, those factories, those people might be in a difficulty if continued, global warming and the Indian Ocean as it continues to rise and also to be warm. So we are working with the Department of Environment, but also consulting the families or the communities that are within that red line or behind that red line to indicate the future challenges, but also we've now even explored the ways of what can we do to mitigate future disasters. I know that we have been in discussions with universities with a view of even learning from other countries. We spoke about countries such as Netherlands, which have dealt very well with the waters, and it's something that we are seriously looking at. So we are determined to look at the work of mitigating the effects of climate change, including budgeting and mainstreaming the research with communities, with community awareness. We have a climate change committee in the province, which consists of NGOs and many stakeholders, where we discuss and share with experts in this field. So we have also started the platforms that disastrous impact of heavy storms and rains and floods, including the destruction of social infrastructure such as schools, public health institutions, and other infrastructure, as you would have heard from our Tekwini municipality. Last week, in our inaugural meeting of the executive for the new members of the Executive Council, we've also shared with the members of the Executive Council the seriousness of our intervention in terms of responding to our people that are still in the shelters. We indicated as well that no human beings should, be subjected to such conditions as we would have seen previously. And we are aware that as government, there are, of course, restrictions when it comes to utilizing funds in terms of the PFMA. So we are expected to still follow the procedures and the laws. And within all of that, we have seen that departments have made considerable, a change in terms of responding. We are also, honorable members, recording and indicating that we are in constant liaising with the Chapter 9 institutions, such as the Human Rights Commission and the Office of the Public Protector, so as the Office of the Auditor General. We have shared various reports with the Auditor General. We have had meetings with the Human Rights Commission, and I must say that one of the areas that we engaged the Human Rights Commission was the area of NGOs that receive substantial donations, and that we have not really seen the impact of such donations to the shelters or to the communities. And unfortunately, none of them wanted to disclose as to how much did they get, whether from Massmat or from Netbank or wherever, so that we can know and understand as to where have they intervened or where they have supported in the shelters or where they have not, so as to avoid the duplication. Unfortunately, as I say, this information has not been forthcoming. I hope that maybe sometimes at some point, honorable members will also work with us so as to ensure that everybody accounts at the end of the day. We are also stating that criminality in awarding of tenders associated with disaster relief packages, has been kept through the pre-award assessment and internal audit assessment that is done, but also working with the Auditor General. We are, Auditor General is raising matters, and some of those have been raised with the departments and they are presently addressing them, such as the one with Department of Education and some with the Department of Human Settlement. We also wish to say that despite the initial challenges associated with the suitable construction of the permanent residential or temporary residential for that matter, finding suitable land has been quite a challenge. We have had to include the purchasing of land even from the private sector, such as the Tonga Tulet in Lamesi, which will also help to build more houses for displaced communities. We're also pointing out that the construction of temporary residential, you will get a comprehensive reports from the MECs to see how far have we gone with this. And in our discussion with Dr. Mahlaba, the MEC for Human Settlement, we've now taken a view that let's not look at only one area of building temporary housing. We're now exploring various forms of housing our people, such as engaging with the Transnet for leasing the building that they have. That building is going to take more than 200 people, and we're hoping that that lease agreement will be completed and people will then be moving to that building. We've also, with the MEC, for Human Settlement, they've also secured the Palm Ridge Hotel, which is a building that was sourced for social housing. And in the meantime, we are also going to be using that building to house more than about 200 people, so as to make sure that at least people have got decent shelter, and then we can decant them from there to their permanent housing. Because we've seen that, if you calculate the money that we're paying for temporary housing and the one of using to put them in those other facilities and then moving them to the permanent, then at least it will be more or less the same or even less sometimes. We remain encouraged by the involvement of other state agencies such as the Housing Development Agency as well as the National Housing Finance Corporation. We also appreciate the National Department of Human Settlement and the provincial Treasury, Water and Sanitation, Social Development, and we've been working very well with our colleagues, our national ministers. I also wish to indicate, honorable members, that indeed we are looking at the long-term solutions. I had my honorable a member, my sister, it's difficult sometimes to say honorable member, Honorable Mkalipi. We were all councillors there running around. So we've looked at the things such as those retaining walls. The retaining walls have now also tended to be dangerous. We've had a number of houses that have been affected by the retaining walls where the mudslide moved the retaining walls and they damaged the house maybe below it and causing even the loss of lives. So we're now even evaluating many of these things that have been done before, as you would heard from eThekwini DM of housing, that we have a very difficult topography in our province, particularly in the areas of the south. And you would know that people have invaded a lot of land, and people tend to, take the land that is not even suitable for residential, settlement. And that is causing problems, because you would have heard as well that other people don't want to move because, of course, they are near the industrial areas and they are near their work, their place of work. So it is indeed difficult for you to say they must move to Konobia, which is about 30, 40 kilometers away from where they work and where their children are going to school. And that, again, put a lot of pressure to government to say, how do you balance the issue of, housing people and housing them in proper, housing, as opposed to, bowing to pressure to such an extent sometimes, because people just want to do what they want to do. Of course, we've got to listen to our communities and we've got to try and work with them. We also indicate that of course, there has been a lot of uncertainty from the people in the shelters, but there has been communication, honorable members. We've even gone to an extent of having community meetings in other areas. I remember in the areas of Dozen Walk and those wards, there were community meetings that were held to try and reach out to those community members that were not in the shelters. But unfortunately, if you do that again, you tend to attract even people that were not affected. Now again, you've got to balance against giving information and reaching those that you want to reach. But there has been communication, there has been attempts to have those community meetings so as to ensure that those that are not in the shelters, those that are with their families, do get information. We're still working with various departments to ensure that libraries, schools, roads, and health clinics, you will get detailed report when the MECs give their reports on that. The other matter that we also wish perhaps to indicate to the honourable members is that as we proceed and continue with working with various stakeholders, we are very constrained when it comes to financial resources to be able to do everything that you'd like to have. But also we've had people that are now wanting to jump the queue. And you would have seen even from yourselves that during the day, you'll find that there are very less people in the shelters, but perhaps once the cars come in with the relief, and then there's many people that pitch up. And sometimes in the evenings when there's time for food or other things, there's more people that tend to come in. So it is a balancing act that the departments are trying to really navigate to, because you cannot chase people if they also want to have food. The number of households, therefore, you would have heard from eThekwini, but we will give you a report of what is happening across the whole province when it comes to issues of human settlement, but also social development. Home Affairs has also continued to work with us in terms of repatriation of our foreign nationals, as well as the embassies that work with us. And we've had very good working relations with those entities and sectors. We also wish to say, honorable members, that we will continue with communicating and communication with communities in the community halls. As we say that there are those challenges that sometimes people are not there, or there are less people, and you give information to others, and others are not able to get information because they are not there, of course. We want to thank honorable members, also the South African Council of Churches and other role players who are working with government and continue to work with government, as well as the local councillors and traditional leadership that continues to work with us to assist us in finding land, but also in accommodating communities that are still in community halls. A social facilitation has also been attached to each one of the shelters, so as to ensure that the building of the temporary residential units that are constructed, they are indeed attached to families or to the households. Critically, it should also be stated that the social facilitator is also responsible for liaising with families in order to ensure that children of those who are being reallocated to new places have access to schools. Also, there are families that live alongside the river banks and waterways purely because they wanted to access the economic opportunities and places of their employment, as I indicated. We also want to say, honorable members, as I draw to my conclusion, that indeed we are going to be, navigating through this because there's a lot of people who would take advantage of the situation that is being faced by our communities. There is one area with my last point, the area of Shongweni Dam. You might have heard about it, you might not have heard about it. It is an issue that we are dealing with as a province. I would say the unfortunate thing that happened was that it was reclaimed as part of the land claim by the traditional council, and it was then under traditional council. And unfortunately, that dam was built in the 1880s, whatever, long time ago. They say it must have been the first dam that was built in South Africa. As a result, that dam is not like all other dams because when it is flooded or when there's too much water, it tends to tilt and the water just spills for itself. You don't need to open the gate because it doesn't have the gate. But we have raised it with the minister as well as the municipality to say together we might have to seriously look at this. We might have to, reclaim or get that back through the ways of ensuring that we protect communities that live alongside there. So we might then need to negotiate, renegotiate with those communities so that they understand that right now there's a lot of claims even from businesses that were affected by that tilting of that water on the dam. And as a result, they would want to claim from somebody, and unfortunately, they can't claim from the traditional council who now own that land, which is part of the dam. We were even talking about expropriation so that we really protect our communities because it is a serious risk to lives, but also it's a serious risk to the well-being of all the communities that lives below or on the area of that of that river. Because if you look at even the slide, you will see that the river itself it veered from its own original route and it took a different route. That's why a number of houses were then affected. Whether it was because of a lot of water from the floods or adding to that water was the water from the dam. So it is something that is serious that indeed we are working with. So honorable members, we look forward to the constructive inputs and wise counsel from all of you. And we shall ensure that indeed we work with speed to give decent shelter to our communities. And once more, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
No, thank you, Honorable Premier, and thank you. You gave us a bird's eye view of the consolidated report that was timelessly submitted to the members of the committee. May I ask who is responsible for any detail in that consolidated report that your office want to focus on so that we can deal with that now, and then thereafter we'll take the MECs? Will be Kokta. Okay, I then invite the Honorable MEC for Kokta, the Honorable Zikalala, to come to the front so that he can deal with the consolidated report. Honorable MEC, you will have exactly 25 minutes until 1:30. It's a lot of information in there. Eh? You have given us a lot of information. And then honorable members will break then for lunch, and then when we come back, we will deal with the outstanding matters. Thank you.
No, thanks. Greetings to all of you, honorable members, the co-chairs, the members of the Ad Hoc Committee, the Premier, MECs, the Mayor, the DG, and all HODs. Now, in that 25 minutes, I will take 2 minutes, and then may I request Mr. Ngema to be approaching the podium. We're going to give a detailed account on our response on the floods, disasters. We will cover the municipalities that have not been covered, especially Umlalazo, Mkungundlovu, Uku. We will touch a bit on the issue of search and rescue. We will then deal with the issues also of funding to other municipalities, as well as the donations that have been given, as the Premier indicated, that there are donations that have been given. I'm not going for today, I'm not going to take you through the detailed presentation on my own. I did the first time we met. Let me allow, of course, we have the DG, we have HOD Tubane, but from the Disaster Management Center, we've got Mr. Ngema. He is the one who's going to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC, and greetings to the Honorable Chairs, to the Premier, MECs, members, and all heads of departments and senior colleagues. My presentation, as you heard, the Honorable Premier just covered most of the areas, and which was also emphasized by the Honorable MEC right now. In particular, given the 25 minutes that the Honorable Chair has just indicated, I'll just zoom straight into specific areas that are not necessarily covered in the presentations, even though you have the details in the presentation. Last time when the honorable members visited the province, there were some specific issues and responses that they required direct from the Department of Cooperative Governance, just as they have been highlighted by the Honorable MEC right now. In this regard, we will try to reflect on the progress insofar as those issues are concerned, but also touch a little bit on some of the areas, more specifically the issues of how we are handling the process of dealing with the missing persons into more specific details, and look at the funding arrangements that have been processed through the national sphere of government. Just going straight into the issues of Umlalazi. At Umlalazi, there were 10 specific families or households that were identified and needed to be relocated and be supported with the TRUs. Working with the Department of Human Settlements, we can confirm that all the households that were assessed and included in the beneficiary list of the municipality have all been attended. And to date, we are reporting that the Department of Human Settlements has completed the construction of 30 TRUs in the area of Umlalazi. So that takes care of even the 10 that was initially allocated during the first visit. Furthermore, at Umlalazi, there was an issue about a bridge that is across Utugela River, which was said to be in Ward 16, and that area was also was affecting the local communities, and as a department, we were required to facilitate the repairs that are required in that regard. Working with the municipality, we have since identified that in particular, there's no specific. Thank you, Chair. Well, working with the municipalities, we were able to receive support from MISA, from MISA engineers who were deployed to all the affected municipalities to conduct the detailed technical assessments of all the municipal infrastructure that needed some attention, so that we could support them with the facilitation of the funding applications and requests that needed to be made. So at Umlalazi, it was found that firstly, together with the municipality and the engineers that were assessing, they could not find any bridge directly across Utugela River that was affected. However, there was still a number of other causeway bridges that were affected, that were assessed and also attended to by the municipality working with the department. So there's a list of those causeway bridges that were identified in various wards, but in the interest of time, I'm not necessarily going to go through them, but they're in slide 4 as indicated. What we can emphasize there is that from that list of the causeway bridges that were affected, all of them have been affected. Well, all of them have been repaired, with the exception of P518 in Ward 23, the International Causeway Bridge and Gravel Road that is currently being repaired, and there's a service provider or a contractor that is already on site that is working. But otherwise, all other causeway bridges have been affected and are now usable. At Mkungundlovu, issues were with regards to Umsunduzi, Mpofana, and Richmond. There were 8 families or households at Truro Hall under Umsunduzi municipality, and the service provider has been appointed and the site has been cleared. So the work is currently underway to construct the TRUs in that regard. At Mpofana, assessments are being conducted and have been concluded, and again the service provider has been identified. It's expected that the construction of the TRUs under Mpofana will be completed by the end of August, so by the end of this month. through the Department of Human Settlements, who will also be providing the details in that regard as well. The only issue is with Richmond, where they're still conducting the assessment of finding the suitable land where the commitment to construct the houses or the TRUs can also be done. But priority also, it's still the same. We're focusing on those that lost their houses completely. Under Uku, it was the issue about the Valley Road Bridge and the bridge on the Crescent Street, where the municipality was supposed to provide the bollard, the bollard signage for the people not to pass and even avoid other accidents. At Valley Road Bridge under Uku, as we speak, the concrete bollard which is painted has already been put in place. But honorable members, here we also need just to give a little background about this Valley Road Bridge, that this Valley Road Bridge was affected by the 2019-2020 disasters. It was assessed, verified by the National Disaster Management Center and approved for funding. Unfortunately, that particular funding has been arranged to be made to be available in the next financial year, which is 23-24. And it's still awaiting the release of that funding so that work can on the complete repairs can also be done. But at this stage, the municipality is using the internal funds just to prepare and do the initial work in terms of doing the minor repairs and making it to be usable, even though it still requires a lot of funding that need to be provided. At Bridge on Crescent, there again, there are partial repairs that are currently being done on the deck to allow the vehicles to drive. But unfortunately, the causeway for the pedestrians is still closed, and it's barricaded through the bollard barricade that was identified and requested by the honorable members. But safe to say, one side of that particular road is currently being used. Unfortunately, it's not accessible to the pedestrians. Then the issues of debris that keep coming from time to time, but they have been cleared, but each time when there are rains upstream, you will find that there are debris. We've spoken a lot about the issues of search and rescue, but I think what we need to emphasize, what has not necessarily come out clearly, is the process of dealing with some of the bodies in terms of the missing bodies, as well as processing of those unidentified bodies. Dr. Kumete did explain the process, that it's an ongoing process between SAPS and the Department of Health, but this also includes working with other departments such as the Department of Justice and SAPS to fast track and process this. So what's happening is that the SAPS has a database of all missing persons, and those missing persons they've allocated to each to each local police station, and for the detectives to continue with the investigations. And where there are leads, they then deploy the necessary resources for search and rescue to follow those leads and recover whatever bodies that they could find, or even any other remains that they could find. So that process is still in place, and it continues. And we have it has been demonstrated that just this week, Dr. Kumeto was reporting of another pieces of bodies that were found, and then there are others that were also found last week, Wednesday, in the area of Greenwood Park. Once the bodies have been found, they are then linked. They are linked with the processing of the DNA samples, taken from those households that are still reporting their missing bodies, to come and take the samples so that they try to match those pieces that could be found, the unidentified bodies. This week, SAPS reported that there will be specialist teams that will descend on KZN to assist with the fast tracking of the processing of those DNA samples. So we are hoping that also will assist greatly. And the decision has been taken between the Department of Health and the SAPS to move all flood-related bodies to one central mortuary, which is a Gale Street mortuary, so that any other processing that needs to be done, it's done at that central point, and that is also on an ongoing basis communicated with those that still require some assistance. I'm not necessarily going to go through the details about the further details in terms of the recoveries. It's been dealt with. And I think, honorable members, we have also heard a lot about Otongat issues and the need for the PPPs. Safe to say at this stage, unfortunately, there are no private-public partnerships that exist, and the eThekwini municipalities, they have done a lot, and they are able to do a lot of work in that regard to ensure that services are restored. But maybe we can also highlight the number of shelters that are still in existence. Some progress has been achieved, even though not in its entirety. You will recall, honorable members, that last time when you were here, there were about 120 shelters that were in existence around different parts of the province. But to date, we have about 84 that are still active, 71 found in eThekwini, 12 at Ilembe, 1 at Mkungundlovu, but all other shelters that were under Uku have all closed down because of the work that has been done by different departments and stakeholders in terms of either the provision of the TRUs or any other interventions that include the re-intervention and reunification of families, which is facilitated mainly by the Department of Social Development. The Honorable Premier spoke a lot about the role of DSD in providing psychosocial support, so I'm skipping all those other issues. We've heard a lot. But coming to the donations, it's always impossible to account for each and every donation, but just to deal with some of the donations, we have a system of recording all the donations that are coming through to support the government direct, even though a lot of other donations have been done through the NGOs and NGOs working with specific communities. So, excuse me, we have received a number of them, and the database is available at the Premier's office, which is also shared with mostly DSD, that is usually responsible for because most of the donations, it's targeting the shelters where communities live. In particular, I'm sure eThekwini, they did report on the donation from the church, the church known as the Church of Jesus, which is at the moment has committed. I can honorable members, yes, it's here. It's a Church of Jesus Christ, but yeah. Interestingly, what's important, I will find it. I'll beg your pardon. I'll find it, but I think I'm just rushing through my presentation. Is that the church has committed to provide food supplies for the period of 3 months between July, August, and September, just as part of supporting government in that regard, especially in the shelters around eThekwini. So that one, I think I'm just highlighting some of the areas that can be appreciated and acknowledged by the House, whilst a number of other donations have been processed and dealt with by the province and working with different departments. Also, as part of the donations and other pledges, we wish honorable members to bring to your attention the support that has been received from the DBSA, where the DBSA also committed about 78.6 million rand towards the humanitarian support that is required by the province, which is currently implemented in the province. The focus of this donation is broken down into the provision of 14 water tankers that will be distributed to the municipalities of Ilembe, King Cetshwayo, Ugu, Umgungundlovu, and Uthukela. Whilst there's also 15 boreholes with treatment package plants that will be drilled in those municipalities. And in eThekwini, the bank has committed to build at least 100 permanent houses around the areas of eThekwini. I think one needs to emphasize that these are permanent houses and not TRUs. So this is also dependent on the availability of land that can, the suitability of land that can be processed and made available between the city and the Department of Human Settlements. And the balance of that 100 will then be shared between the most affected municipalities of KwaDukuza getting 20, Umsunduze, Reinkonyeni, Alfred Duma, Umdoni, and Ndwedwe. Ndwedwe has been allocated 10 of those households. So these are some of the major donations that we would like to emphasize and present to you. In terms of the progress, in fact, the implementation plan is that the bank is going to be responsible for the implementation of most of these projects. There will be no funding that will be transferred direct to any of the beneficiary municipalities, but municipalities will be providing the information as required by the bank so that the bank can facilitate the procurement processes and the delivery of those. Some agreements in a form of council resolutions have been processed with all the municipalities as identified. At this stage, the bank is currently finalizing the terms of reference regarding the water tankers and the procurement for the boreholes of those particular service providers to support those service providers. Then the provincial Department of Public Works is currently supporting a number of departments with a lot of other infrastructure repairs that also need to be attended to in terms of the facilities, especially from DSD. They have about 16, over 7 million that's required. Sports and culture also has 30 libraries, art centers, and sports facilities that were also damaged by the floods. Again, Department of Transport, the RTI offices that were affected, especially Pinetown and Roseburg areas, whilst the Department of Health has also identified, has about 86 health facilities that were affected that the Department of Public Works is assisting with. And most of these, they are currently, in fact, the procurement processes are almost completed, and in some areas, especially for the minor works, have been completed, and they are currently under implementation. Especially for the minor repairs, it's expected that minor repairs will be completed by between August and September, but there are those repairs that will be completed at least by December, if not before the end of the financial year, depending on the damages that were identified. Honorable members, we've provided you with a list of those facilities that are being attended to in terms of the repairs for damages. Again, with the Department of Education, Department of Education reported at the time of the flood disasters, 630 schools were reported. However, after technical assessments that were conducted, The number was subsequently reduced drastically from 630 to 356 schools that still require attention and that need some support. Again, this in terms of the implementation program, they've broken down in terms of specific categories of the damages that need some attention spread out around the specific municipalities. However, it's safe to note that of those, there have been schools, 26 schools, that made requests for support with the mobile classrooms, who have been supported, and to date, the department has allocated about 74 mobile classrooms to those 26 schools that were identified. Most of them are found in Pinetown, Umlazi, and Uku areas, and currently all of these mobile classrooms have been delivered. Then other procurement processes are also underway in various schools, and there's a list of those schools, 29 schools that still require some attention, and you'll find them in slide 84 and 85. I think also what one needs to emphasize about the repairs under the Department of Education is that Department of Education has also received some donations and partnerships that have also donated to support. Some they are providing services, and others are pledging funds to support the repairs. Mainly the correctional services that have supported with the cleaning of the schools, and Zoho-san have pledged some funds. The presidency and SASOL that is also supporting the department with the implementation of the repairs required. Honorable members, I will not necessarily get into the details of the human settlements, understanding that human settlements is also one of the specific sectors that will be presenting. More especially, we've had some of the issues, especially relating to the land, the acquisition of land parcels for fast tracking the implementation of the TRUs, and also where the Honorable Premier made reference to some other alternative measures that are also being considered. So we will have the colleagues providing the details of that. But as if we talk about the Department of Transport, from the incidents, there are 730 projects that were identified under the Department of Transport. And at the time when the assessments, the technical assessments were conducted, it was required that the department could reprioritize their own budget, and requires about 2.9 billion that need reprioritization. But part of it is that the department has got the implementation strategy, which is broken into short, medium to long term, and other intergovernmental relations that they are working with to fast track. In this case, in the case of intergovernmental relations, this includes working with SANRAL to focus mainly on the provincial and national road damages, while working with SANDF on the Bailey bridges. 26 of them have been identified and assessed, so the repairs can be implemented. Lastly, honorable members, I will just reflect on the progress with regards to the disaster grant funding applications that have been processed. Well, the famous billion, I'm sure we are all now aware about that 1 billion rand for KZN, which was actually not meant for KZN, but it was a billion rand that was available for the country to be shared with other affected provinces. So I will not necessarily get into those details, but it's safe to say that that is broken down. It's made up of funding that is available from the disaster relief or response grant and the provincial emergency housing relief grant, and which makes up the billion. But in terms of the progress with regards to that, The National Treasury through the NDMC has completed the process of allocating the disaster grants for the deserving municipalities for both phase 1 and phase 2, where in phase 1, 87.3 million was allocated to the municipalities of Uku, Reinkonyeni in particular, Uku municipalities, Reinkonyeni, Msunduzi, Mkambatini, Ilembe, and Inkosi Langalbalele. So there were 35 projects that were identified there. The money was transferred on the 31st of June to the municipalities, and they are currently busy with the implementations. For phase 2, there were 9 municipalities that submitted their applications for consideration in terms of the disaster response grant. I must also emphasize that the disaster response grant is really for the emergency repairs that can be implemented within the short space of time, the period being 6 months. So from the 9 applications, there were 3 municipalities that were approved for those emergency repairs, which is Reinkonyeni with 10 projects, KwaDuguza 31, and Alfred Duma, there were 5. And the balance of the applications were then referred to for consideration during the reconstruction and the rehabilitation grant. So to date, the phase 2 allocation that has been made, it amounts to 134 million that has been allocated to the municipalities of KwaDuguza, Reinkonyeni, and Alfred Duma, who are then currently busy with the implementation of the 49 projects. We have also facilitated the confirmation of other projects that still require permanent solution by municipalities through the reconstruction and the rehabilitation grant that is usually a process during the budget adjustment process. So there were 11 municipalities that identified some of the projects, but upon the submission and the confirmation of those, 7 were confirmed and accepted by the National Disaster Management Center based on the existing criteria that is used to process. So at this stage, the province has submitted another claim for 2.9 billion that can be able to assist Umgungundlovu, King Echwayo, Mhlatuze, Inkosi Langalbalele, Ilembe district, and KwaDuguza. The only issue that is still outstanding that we are busy following up with the National Sphere of Government is that 185 million rand for supporting eThekwini Metro. And it's safe to say the application was recommended by the NDMC for that particular funding, and it was submitted to National Treasury for approval so that that money can be released, and we are hoping that it's just a matter of time for that money to be made available. Towards the last is also the municipal infrastructure grant reprioritization, where Treasury approved for the reprioritization of 41.2 million rand from the municipal infrastructure grant to the municipalities of Umzumbe, Uthukela, and King Echwayo. And all of this so as to implement the critical interventions that are required. There's still an issue about the request. Honorable Premier, she referred to this in detail, that looking at the Department of Social Development, they also submitted their business plans for support with the available disaster management grant funding frameworks. Unfortunately, the type of requests that were submitted were found not to be in line with the requirements for the grant funding frameworks. So their application was then referred to the National Department of Social Development. Again, we are still waiting for the Department of Social Development to indicate what type of support it can be provided to our provincial Department of Social Development. From the provincial disaster relief account, which is used for those individuals and organizations that would like to pledge financial support, an account exists with Absa Bank, which is administered by the provincial treasury. And as at to date, there's about 4.2 million that is available from various donations. On a regular basis, the provincial treasury make recommendations to the MinCombat for the allocation of those particular grants. But it has been recommended that given the demands within the Department of Social Development, the provincial executive supported the idea that maybe the balance of these funds can be used towards the DSD request. Honorable members, I think I may have exhausted my time, but I think in a nutshell, this is just a consolidated report that we would like to present for discussion. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for the presentation. You have not exhausted your time, only you've exceeded your time. But because of the importance of the information in there, we allowed that to happen. Honorable members, and also the councillors and guests who have joined us, lunch will now be served on the ground floor restaurant. And I want everybody to be back here at 2:30 so that we can start with proceedings. Thank you very much.